You're listening to Lighthouse Conversations, brought to you by Lighthouse Haven, a spiritual home for your awakening soul. Lighthouse Conversations is a show where awakening souls gather to be inspired, connected, and enlightened. Spiritual spark plug and host Chelly Canales, that's me, will guide you through the twists and turns of your journey to a safe haven where you are finally free to live your best light. Each episode contains a conversation with a guest who has gone through a spiritual awakening, detailing their unique and life-changing experiences in an intimate and candid way. Although everyone's experience is as unique as they are, we all share one common thread. We're all seeking something. So, come join us on this journey and be prepared to leave with resources that will supercharge you into inspired action. Here's today's episode. Well, hello, awakening souls. It's been a minute, hasn't it? I haven't released an episode in 6 months, even though I have such beautiful conversations ready to go, including the one today with Melissa Parker Fisher. I can't wait to share her with you. What an amazing soul, a beautiful energy, and it was just a pleasure to meet her. And I guess I wanted to say that a lot has happened that has, I guess, maybe not allowed me to have the capacity to be creative with this podcast and to share like I wanted to share, and how I've enjoyed sharing for 3 seasons so far. But since we last spoke, I, have been dealing with loss and grief, and my life has been turned upside down in ways I couldn't imagine. And some of it's for the better, and some of it will be breaking my heart for the rest of my life. But I guess that is the cost of love. So, and if there's anything we all share, if there's anything that's universal, it's that we all, at some point, will lose someone we love so deeply. So I know he loved this podcast. So this one's for you, and for all of you out there who are listening, and thank you for sticking with me, taking the time to learn about this incredible human, Melissa. She heals through aesthetics. And that's how her life was healed as well. So I want you to sit back and enjoy and take in the journey of Melissa Parker Fisher. And welcome to the show, Melissa. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for inviting me to be on your podcast. I'm honored to be here.
It's an honor to have you. I love your energy. I love what you bring to the world. You have this wonderful combination of wellness and spirituality, as well as being in the aesthetics of our bodies and our faces and our the way we show up in the world, and the way you connect them together is truly lovely. And I think something that I know I would get a lot of benefit about, as well as many people out there. Can you tell me how you got to this point? What is your journey of awakening?
So that's a combination of things, and wellness, spirituality, and aesthetics. So I'll just go on those three points. As a young girl, I had a very traumatic childhood, but there was one thing that I could do. I would go get those big St. Ives body lotions.
Yes.
And even when I was in foster care, even when I was in, not so good situations, I would go to, Kmart when it existed and get myself a $2 lotion. And I had even at like 15, I would do this whole body lotion thing. And I didn't know at the time that I was doing self-care.
Yeah.
It was just this thing that I love to do. And cucumber melon was the vibe those days. And so it's just something that I did. And it was, looking back, I always was always into beauty, always into skincare. And so it's nice to look back at my younger self and see that I was doing that, to cope with my situation. So I'm really glad that I had that. I had eczema pretty severely most of my life until recently. I was able to heal my skin with wellness, so with food protocols and lifestyle interventions. And the spirituality aspect that comes into play, coming from a tumultuous childhood. I did what a lot of people who join the military do. You're trying to get out of a situation. So I joined the Air Force. So spent 6 years in the Air Force, went to Turkey and had a tour in Iraq. And when I came back, I couldn't sleep. I just couldn't sleep. And I didn't know that I was developing post-traumatic stress disorder and bipolar disorder. I didn't know that was what was happening because I did well in the military. I was, never got in trouble really. I was a good little sergeant. And so I didn't think I would be the one to get, post-traumatic stress and that type of thing. So it crept on, and I started drinking to go to sleep. Literally at the beginning, it was like, man, I can't sleep without this stuff. And so it progressed, obviously. Once it becomes a medication, it becomes an addiction instantly.
Right.
So it progressed further and further. And I spent about, I would say, 7 solid years in addiction. And my awakening came summer of 2016. I went to the VA doctor and I was like, I can't eat any food. I could not keep food down if I hadn't drank. So I would have to drink to eat my 4 Taco Bell tacos. And I decided that was the end of it. And I feel like it was divinely guided because I stumbled into my aesthetics school hungover to do the orientation. To say I'm going to sign up. I wasn't even sober yet, but I said, okay, this class starts in 3 weeks. I'm going to get sober. So I just decided August 13th, 2016 that I was done. And what helped me was going to AA. And so that's when the spiritual awakening happened, was going through the 12 steps. And so the 12 steps, traditionally people do them in a row, but I went to a meeting and luckily there was a woman who said, you don't have to wait to do the 11th step. And so the 11th step is sought through prayer and meditation, to deeper your connection, and I was like, oh, okay. Cause I've always been the overachiever. I was like, yeah, I'll do 11. So I started going to the meditation meeting and doing all the other steps. And I began meditating with Jason Stevenson's guided meditations on YouTube. And that's where it started. And, it comes in layers.
Absolutely, it does. There's so many points here between, the overcoming what happened in your childhood, to overcoming alcoholism, to finding out that connection between what has always been there for you, that wonderful self-care was so necessary to get you where you were going. And so you went through this process, you started school, and as you were on that process, did it seem like just the natural course of things to stay sober and to focus on this new career path for you?
It did. And I think because I've always been one to have goals and have, I was in really good shape at one point. And when I stopped drinking, I was 100 pounds overweight. And so I knew that there was a place I wanted to get back to. And so the day I got sober, I started walking too. I was only able to walk like 15 minutes, but I replaced something immediately. So I think instead of that, you're trying to change something, but sometimes people don't put something in as a substitution.
Sure. Yeah.
And so I went from drinking all day to being in aesthetic school all day. And to have that transition was perfect for me. I could reinvent myself. That was nice because the girls, they didn't know me before. And so I got to show up as my new self, my new me. And so that was its own motivation for me to keep going. And then the level of self-soothing that goes on in aesthetics class, because we're just practicing facials on each other for 6 months. And that was what I needed. That was the beginning process of the healing power of touch.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes.
Yes. And so that's kind of where I've really enjoyed aesthetics, is that healing power of touch and what that can create.
Tell me more about that, because I feel like a lot of times if we're trying to self-soothe with alcohol or drugs, it's because there's a factor of missing connection, of loneliness. So tell me a bit about how that healing touch is something that, well, heals, that brings people to a place where they are soothed, as you mentioned.
I think so. For me, I suffered from like abandonment issues and attachment issues. So I didn't even know that I wanted like to be embraced. I didn't even know. Yeah, I didn't even know that that was something I needed. But just as a human organism, that is something, no matter how spiritual we are and how in depth we are, unless we're like one of those special like monks who are, their whole life is meditating. We're in this flesh needs stimulation for neurotransmitter function, for, just soothing, just all different types of reasons. And so I felt that was what my gift was is touch. I felt spirit. I felt God tell me like, this is one of your gifts. And so, explore that. And more so recently, I was like, I like aesthetics. I love this thing. Like, what exactly specifically, God, do you want me doing with this? And he's like, you have, your hands are your instrument. That's your gift.
Yes, you're a healer. And it's amazing. Sometimes the things that we most need to heal in ourselves are what we are able to share with others because we've been through it. And you understand it from a level that when you connect with a client, you've been where they've been, and they can feel that nurturing from you. I find that so valuable. Tell me a little bit about how this turned into your mobile business. And I know you're going to have a space that is going to be your own as well. What was your vision when you started? And is that still your big vision?
So initially I started, the business was called Face Express. It's now Total Skin Wellness, but it was started in 2019, December. So Face Express came in the worst possible beginning of a hand-to-hand business.
Right.
So I got a space initially. I was going to do mobile, and I've done the mobile just for, for cost reasons. It's very expensive to be in aesthetics. The product, you want to use really good products. It's expensive, and the modalities. So I was looking for the most efficient way to get started. And it became something that people really responded to, in the pandemic, because now nobody wanted to leave their house, but I could come in, they could control their environment. And so mobile really worked out. I took a detour during the pandemic for, I worked in insurance. I was selling life insurance for a second, and, just trying to figure it out, trying to get it together and see what would happen. But when I got vaccinated, I felt like I had a new lease on life. When that needle went in my arm, I just cried. I felt like I could start over. And I started transitioning out of the insurance company I was working for. And I rebuilt the umbrella company, Wellness and Things, and then Soul Dance Skin. That was that was the first idea of
Soul Dance.
Yeah. Soul Dance Skin was the first idea for the skincare. And I thought Soul Dance was a little bit too nichey, and I didn't want to exclude people. So, Total Wellness Skin was one. And, so there was just going from Face Express initially, I was just always trying to get the right
Combination of words. Yeah.
Right combination of words. And so now we have Total Skin Wellness, which I feel like is more descriptive of what I'm actually doing.
So what are you actually doing? What would people get going to see you with Total Skin Wellness?
So Total Skin Wellness is going to be a all-encompassing skincare programming. So I'm going to look at your skin. I do a thing called face mapping. So in face mapping, you take a look at the skin and see where there's acne, where there's dehydration. And surprisingly, that correlates with different areas of your body systems. So a big one is usually in the cheek area, and has to do with digestion. In the chin has to do with hormonal fluctuations. So I introduce different concepts, nutrition, and products that are, very targeted and active to kind of hit things from the outside and then heal from the inside. And that combination together really gets people good results. And, and going from the soul dance part into the, total skin wellness part, I still bring that idea of connecting into the service. So at the beginning of the service, sometimes quietly, it's just part of my own vibe of getting connected. I'll center myself, and then I'll place my hands on the client and just center them. And I kind of wait until I hear this deep breath from them.
Yes.
And then I know it's okay to proceed with the treatment.
I love that. It makes so much sense to call it total then, because it is very holistic. You're looking at it from all aspects. It's not just like, here's your facial only. It's the facial. It's integrated with your inner healing. It's integrated with your energy. Do you find that you're giving them in some way like an energy treatment as well as you're working on their skin?
Definitely. One of my clients, she said she was talking me up to another individual, and she's like, there's definitely different work. There's definitely other things happening when she gives you a facial. And, and I really pride myself on that, because I want people to feel comforted. And, a lot of healing has to do with energy too. Is your body going to be ready or receptive to treat your skin? Is the stress level going to be low enough for you to, not have so much overproduction of cortisol that's continuing your acne cycle? So yeah, the total aspect of skin is what I'm focusing on, and just anything. And I'm open to learning and growing. So any other things I can bring in, I'll bring in the future.
Is there any particular transformation that stands out to you of someone who came in just really needing this total, wellness, and you were able to provide that? And what is the story of that?
Yeah. So one of my very first clients, she was a breast cancer survivor. And so when she came to me, she was about 6 months out from remission. And she survived, but there's sometimes this kind of, I wouldn't say like broken spirit, but just the light is a little bit, it's flickering really, really small. It's not this robust kind of fire. And she was my perfect client because she came to all of her treatments. She followed all the nutritional advice. She used all of her products and was always asking questions. And, she stuck with me. And now her skin, I feel like she's in her 60s and her skin is like she's in her 30s. And her daughters ask her, like, what are you doing? Or what are you doing now, Mom? And this and that. And I think that's a good one, because it not only did it changed her skin, and she has a really comprehensive routine that she adheres to, but she just was able to kind of really blossom again and begin to flourish once again.
I love that. It's such an honor, I think, to be a part of someone's journey in that way, to be able to be the catalyst that, yes, they do their own work, but because of you, they're able to get on that path to healing. Now, as someone who works with other people on the regular basis, and you're pouring so much out into others to help them, how do you keep yourself afloat with your energy and your wellness?
So journaling, meditation, exercise. I love to lift weights. I love to walk. And so, but I really prioritize those things. Those are non-negotiables in my life. I have a very solid meditation practice. I've haven't missed more than a day, maybe here or there in like 3 years. I started meditating in September 2019 consistently. And so that's the main way to keep my energy where it needs to be, because I can go into spirit and feel what's off, be open to those messages. And, and then, then God in general, I follow a mystical, Christian path. And so just staying close to God, however that's showing up for me at the time. And, making sure that I take care of my family too, because I have a 7-year-old daughter. And so tending to her needs definitely gets me out of myself a little bit and reminds me not to take things so seriously. So yeah, those are the aspects. Nutrition too. I've been on paleo autoimmune protocol for a few years to clear my skin, and it has worked.
And how did you know that was the way to go, the paleo autoimmune? How was that your program for your body?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things. I'm huge into podcasts, and so when I started down my wellness journey after I got sober, I started wanting to lose weight, and I loved lifting weights. And so a lot of the weightlifting community, 6 years ago, was into paleo, and they're still into, that caveman style eating and very clean, organic grass-fed food. And so I had heard about that. So I had my grandfather pass away, and I had this amazing, phenomenal eczema breakout. I say it was amazing because it was almost hard to even identify with it because it was so flared.
Yeah.
I had golf ball size lymph nodes down my spine. So my immune system was completely freaked out. And I went to the dermatologist, and they wanted to put me on immunosuppressive drugs. And I knew that I was like, how does that end well? How do I get off immunosuppressant drugs? And I just started researching, and I knew it was my immune system. And so the paleo autoimmune protocol manifested itself into my life. And I just got really serious. I did a really extreme, sugar carb detox. And in a few months, things started to change. And what I didn't expect was my mental health to improve. And that was something with my skin improving, my mental health really started to clear up, and I started to gain agency over my life.
Again, that speaks to total wellness. One part of it doesn't exist without the other. We have to take a look at that whole picture, and that's what you've done for yourself. And so you're the living proof when you work with others that you can speak from experience, that you know how it works, and it's worked for you, and that's beautiful. I wanted to ask, so when you say you've been meditating consistently every day, what does your practice look like?
So there's a combination of things. I like to do just sit. I think you would call it like traditional, like transcendental meditation, but I don't usually use a mantra. I like to clear my thoughts. If something comes in, I acknowledge it, let it go. So I like to stay as clear as I can and then be open to receive. So that I can, when I come out of that meditation, if I have a good idea or a thought or an encouragement from spirit, I'll write it down, I'll journal. I also have these like amethyst prayer beads as well that I just got recently that I'm loving. And I'll meditate with stones sometimes. And then sometimes I can't get there. I can't get my brain to turn off. And so I love a good Deepak Chopra guided meditation. Yes. Like him and Oprah, they have all these series. It's lovely. Right. So yeah, that's what it looks like for me.
And how long do you normally sit in that every day?
I say in totality throughout the day, probably 30 minutes.
I love to hear that because I know even for myself in my practice, I get bogged down and think, oh, this is too much time. I don't know if I can do this. It really doesn't have to be that much. It could be 5 minutes. It could be 10 minutes, just as long as you're in that space where you allow, like you said, to receive the messages, where you're in a clear you're a clear sort of channel, I think, to what spirit would like to share with you. And it gives you a break. If you're too stressed to take those minutes, it's probably because you need to take those minutes. That makes it even more important to make that a consistent practice in your life. So that's a great example. Thank you for sharing that. Is there, or are there, any spiritual teachers or books that you love that have really encouraged you on your journey?
Absolutely. So I am reading right now, Esther Hicks' Ask and It Is Given.
Yep.
I read Gary Zukav's Seed of the Soul recently. Love that
one. Okay.
Yeah. So there's a whole foreword from Oprah where she says that was the book that changed her life in the 80s. That's when she first started. So when I heard her say that, I was like, I definitely need to read that. I read the Bible, and then I read this modern Stoic philosopher called Ryan Holiday. He has a series of books. The Obstacle is the Way, Ego is the Enemy, Stillness is the Key. There are these little short books where he takes examples of people from history and different philosophers and really brings it into a practical application to day-to-day life. So, I mean, there's so many, there's so many, but it's hard to sometimes, rattle them all off.
I think that's a great start. There are some people here I'm not familiar with, so I want to check that out. And thank you for sharing that. And I know that you're a big podcast fan. Besides this one, what podcasts do you love that inspire you?
Yeah, so I have my number one favorite podcast would be Ryan Holiday's podcast, The Daily Stoic. So I listen to that nearly every day. And then I have different fitness podcasts I listen to. I like The Genius Life with Max Lugavere. He talks about his mother passed away from Alzheimer's. So he has like this really big passion for health and nutrition. And then there's this really fun podcast called The Frugal Friends. Oh. And it's these two, I believe, social workers or therapists that talk about like saving money, and they'll talk about it from like emotional standpoints, and just they'll hit it from all different kinds of areas. And then Rainn Wilson from The Office, he has the website Soul Pancake. He talks about, metaphysical stuff. He's from the Baha'i faith. He has a new podcast that I just started getting into. And yeah, there's so many though. And then there's some good aesthetics podcasts that I listen to, other estheticians and what they're doing and in the space.
These are all really good recommendations. Thank you for that. So you're in Denver area. How can people work with you?
Yeah. So if you search Total Skin Wellness, you'll find my Google page right now. I just did the shoot for my website. So that's coming, totalskinwellness.com. I can also be reached by email. So melissadoeslife444@gmail.com. That's me doing life. And I have the 4s. That's the angel number. So melissadoeslife444@gmail.com. And I'm always open to answer any questions and then to collaborate if anyone is, interested on doing events or anything of that nature.
Well, you are showing up in the world so beautifully. You are doing you're living in what I like to call the circle of light. So it's that thing in your heart that you love that fills your cup, right? But it goes out into the world and it touches a population. And so they are healed. They are better because of you deciding to step into your role. And then when that comes back to you, it completes the circle because you feel that gratitude. You see your person, who was recovering from cancer, have this amazing experience in her 60s with her beautiful skin. So you're living in that space that so many of us long to be in, and that's where I wish we all could be. So I want to applaud you for your bravery in stepping into your path, and because you are, the world is better for it. So thank you for that.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that. And you are definitely in the circle as well, seeking to have these conversations and, going where the light is leading you as well. So thank you.
That means so much. And I am so delighted that you were on the show today, and I can't wait to learn more about your business.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you for listening to Lighthouse Conversations. If this show resonates with you, it would mean so much to have you rate, review, and share. Don't forget to follow us at chellycanales.com and on social media.